Hi guys, welcome to the first video on the chapter Nationalism in Europe. So in this topic we'll be discussing firstly the French Revolution and the idea of a nation. So when we think of the idea of a nation, the ideals for a nation, we think of liberty, we think of fraternity, fundamental rights, then we think of things like equality before law. So all these concepts that we know of currently in whatever describes a nation for us, these are quite new concepts. Earlier, few centuries ago, in fact, this was not the case. The monarchy was the one ruling over the nations. Then we had religious institutions guiding the monarchs, and they had a huge influence. So the ideas that we think of a nation were best epitomized by this painting that Frederick Sorrieu had. And in this painting you can see that there is a Statue of Liberty here, and people from all over the world with different flags in their hands. So you can see different flags of different countries. They are moving towards the Statue of Liberty, and this shows actually this is a utopian world that he's talking about in this painting. And in this painting he has discussed, you can see that France is here, US is here. So he's talking that nations have to move one by one towards the ideals that are best described by the Statue of Liberty, having this torch of enlightenment in one hand and the Charter of Rights, the fundamental rights, in the other hand. So in this utopian vision that Sorrieu had, he said that the nation states should be a concept that people should think about nation. Then he's also talking that countries like US and Switzerland have led the procession and they've actually reached the nation states, but countries like France have just reached and some other countries should reach. So it's basically saying that countries should leave their absolutist nations here. So you will see that in a pile the absolute nations are kept, the monarchy is thrown away, and the people are the one who are guiding themselves towards, in a train formation, towards the liberty. And you can see above that there is fraternity written on the vision that shows that there is love among everyone. So this was the vision by Frederick Sorrieu. It was in the middle 19th century, but this was the painting that actually epitomized the ideals of a nation. And the real vision for a nation was thought about in 1780s, 1800s actually, and before that the concept of monarchy was present actually. So this was the case that the first idea of a nation was thought about in just a handful of countries, and this was a real struggle for, especially the first struggle that we actually saw was in France with the French Revolution. So in 1789 we had a huge revolution in France where the idea of the nation, so all the things that we just talked about, liberty, freedom, equality before law, things like these were asked by the citizens, and it created a revolution. So the outcome of the revolution was such that earlier there was a full state, territorial state under an absolute monarch. The outcome led to a situation where the sovereignty was transferred from the monarchy to the body of French citizens, basically the parliament. So this was the main outcome of the French Revolution, that the power was given to the citizens, and some measures and practices were taken to ensure that the citizens are happy, they enjoy the freedom. So equal rights under a constitution, so the idea of a constitution was introduced here. Then an elected legislature was introduced, so a national assembly was there, and elected individuals were given an opportunity to represent them. Then uniform laws were there, uniform economics. By uniform economics I mean that the custom duties and the dues were abolished, and then uniform system of weights and measures was adopted, something which we consider essential in this generation, that was introduced for the first time after the French Revolution. So a new French flag was introduced, so a royal standard was removed and a new French flag was introduced. Then focus was given more on nationalism, building the culture of the nation. So new hymns were composed, oaths taken, and this led to a situation where you had the unity of the nation and everyone was super hyped to work towards a full-fledged nation run by the citizens themselves. So you could see that the French armies then decided that they are not going to stop just there with the France. They are going to introduce nationalism, this removal of monarchy everywhere in Europe. And this was supported by the Jacobean clubs. This was basically the association of students and other educated class members. So they carried this nationalism idea abroad as well. Now, then the power was elected. An individual called Napoleon was elected, and when he came into power, he introduced a Napoleonic Code, basically a civil code. So in 1804, Napoleonic Code was introduced, which is basically the civil code under which there was equality before law. Then the privileges based on birth, like people from royal family, they were not given any privileges. So equality before law, then right to property. This is very important, that under the Napoleonic Code you had the right to property as well. Then to ensure that the administrative structure was such that there is ease of administration, he introduced the administrative divisions in Dutch Republic, Switzerland. So wherever he was capturing them, he simplified the administrative divisions there as well. He abolished the feudal system. So feudal system was very much popular in Europe, which was abolished by him. Then guild restrictions were removed. Guild restrictions are basically restrictions on trade. So the restrictions on trade were removed and people were given an opportunity to trade freely. Then transport and communication systems were also improved. So these were some of the things that Napoleon did in foreign territories as well as in France as well. Then this led to a situation where many people were happy. Obviously, some people who did not benefit from these laws and some changes introduced, they were quite turned off as well by all this happening around them. So you could see that the peasants were really happy. The workers were really happy because they had an opportunity that was just based on the skill and not on where the person is born. So national currency was introduced, and weights and measures were introduced. So this helped the businessmen as well. But the problem arose because there was increased taxation. Increased taxation because the armies that were conquering Europe, they had to be fed, they had to be renewed, they had to be given the latest machineries to fight the wars. So Napoleon was fighting wars all over Europe and he needed money to fight those wars. Hence, there was increased taxation and that led to some hostility. So because of this reason, there was a mixed reaction, since there was some censorship as well introduced by Napoleon to ensure that everyone follows what he wants to do. And the forced entry into French army, since the armies were conquering Europe, they needed more men. So families were forced to send their newly adult sons into the French armies. So this was what was happening in Europe, which led to France, which led to a mixed reaction for Napoleon. So this was about the French Revolution in a nutshell, and you will realize that this was the first idea of a nation introduced actually. So this wraps up our topic on French Revolution. In the next topic, we'll be discussing the making of nationalism. Thank you so much.